Thank you, Joe. So allow me to share screen and we can start the discussion now. Okay. Just making sure you guys can see that, right? Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about 5 things. Just very quickly, I only have 10 minutes to talk about this, the framework and structure. So we'll talk about the resource dependency and then the network structure, different type of network that's available to us. And then how do you cultivate the networks and how do you maintain relationship? And also some of the experts' advice, and lastly, the common mistakes. So first thing is the resource dependence. So why do we network in the first place? And I think I want to quote this famous phrase from Jeffrey Pfeffer. He wrote a book of Managing with Power. So power is vested in us by the dependence of others. And that dependence is a function of how much others need what we control, as well as how many alternative sources for that resource that there are. And so by that definition, if you have control over some kind of resource, and that resource could be you're possessing that resource, you could be accessing, having the access to this power, to this resource. You could use it or regulate it. But there's also a certain type of power or control, which is broker, right? And this is where networking comes in. You can broker the information. You can introduce the person that has resource to someone who needs it, right? So in a way, you this is your managing with power, and that's what the networking basis came from. And let's talk about different type of network structure. So there are 2 types of network. One is a dense structure, and one is a discontinuous structure. So when you think about dense structure, essentially people are very intercorrelated, interconnected with mutual influence. So imagine a hub and spoke module where you're kind of central to as a connection to all of different people that you know, right? A typical network structure like this often reflects people that think like you, that talks like you, and it's a very similar group, right? And then you can also basically everyone is connected to each other in a way, as opposed to the discontinued or disconnected structure that you have a lot of hosts basically everyone's very heterogeneous as opposed to a homogeneous group on top. And the disconnected group structure also allows you to have an opportunity to talk to different people and have non-redundant information as opposed to everyone sharing the same background, same information. And this is all the theory done by Ron Berg. They're basically building on weak ties research, and we can reflect on this with theory a little later. But there's a chart. So maybe just pay attention to the top left. So I'm not sure you can see my mouse cursor, but this is on the top left is a dense structure, a dense network, right? And then the one on the right is a network with gaps, and what we call a disconnected network. So imagine this, that you have this red dot in the center. So if you take that red dot away, what happened to this network, to the one on the left? So there's still dots are connected. It might not be able to, like, for example, this person cannot connect to this person directly, but you can connect to someone else, right? You can get through the same person through different means. Over here, you're a essential point, a hub that, basically if you do not exist, this connection is lost. So this is what I meant by this kind of a structured hole or disconnect by definition, right? And then let's look at the bottom chart. So on the bottom left, you have network A, basically you're connected to 4 people, and then network B, you're connected to 8 people, right? But they're also connected. And then to a certain extent, you're connected to 16 people. And then among them, 4 of them are connected at a time, right? So you maintain the connection of 16, and then they all know each other. And now you look at the network on the right side, right? So you have this connection, again, 4, and then 4, and then 4. But they are also connected among themselves, but you don't have to be connected to every single one of them. So let's assume that every connection takes time, takes resource to maintain, to create, to cultivate, right? So let's just speak on pure efficiency standpoints. This one on the right is a much more efficient network than what's on the left. And then you can see on the right chart. So previously, this is you connecting to an interconnected network with 4 connections, right? They're connected. Not everyone's connected to each other, but there are some connections. People can bypass you and then do other things too. And then here, you're the same 4 connections, but basically each one is a hub and spoke, right? You're connected to 4 hubs. And from those hubs, they're able to reach out to, kind of what the hub and spoke meant. They can connect to different people through those central person. So there are some, basically it's what we call the network diversification. And you have the same number of direct ties. You're able to create a larger network without having to actively maintain those network. And obviously the benefits could be, you'll be the first to know, you can arrange partnership. There's political power you can play and such. So this is one theory, right? So obviously everything's a little too transactional to some of you guys, which is totally fine. And we can talk about these two afterwards. But this is some kind of a hub and spoke versus a more of a mesh network, right? That's just kind of by design, by principles. And so now that we talk about the network, so how do we cultivate a network? So one of the most important things to remember is that they're earned, not built. So we often think of network as a some kind of a unilateral action that you are trying to reach out and try to establish a connection. But oftentimes you have to think about it's a bilateral process, right? You're giving something out, you're getting something back. And there actually takes effort from two ends to actually establish network. And that brings us to an important concept of exchange versus reciprocity. So you guys all know what exchange is, right? Exchange means bargain. You're making a trade. It's quid pro quo, right? So you're basically, this is what we talked earlier with a transactional approach that, hey, I'm going to give you this. Can you give something back? And the not so obvious way is reciprocity, right? It should be deeply ingrained into how you treat others, the way they treat you, right? So it's very common that we're generous to those who are generous to us. We're mean to those who are mean to us, right? And then in any point in time, it's always, always works better if you invoke the reciprocity form, and always kind of an EO's indebtedness as opposed to, hey, this is a exchange, this is transactional. And then here we have some, basically reciprocity creates the sense of loyalty, right? As opposed to exchange, it's short-term, short-sighted, short-term lifetime value, as opposed to something you want to maintain for the long term. And from this loyalty, you want to make sure whatever help you're extending out, could be resource, could be gift, could be some kind of help, it must have a cost associated with it, right? Basically, it cannot be something that's free to you. You're giving away, and you want the other side to believe that there's a cost to you as well. It's best to be intended unselfishly, so not tied to any repayment. And also, it's nice to have to be unexpected, and also difficult to repay in kind. So, of course, all of that being said, the best way to be perceived as generous is to actually be generous, right? So there's if you look at the right side, the right-hand side, it's a famous review or analysis performed by Harvard Business School, I think a couple years back, about, I think business school love 2x2. You guys probably already know this. So on the x-axis, you have the likability, how much do you like the person. On the y-axis is competence. How skillful are you to accomplish a certain job, right? And this chart shows that if you're going to assemble a team to work on certain things, who would you pick, right? So first of all, there's no brainer that you do not like to have incompetent jerks, and everyone loves the lovable stars, right? There's no question about those two extreme opposites. Now, when it comes to the competent jerks and also lovable fools, who do you choose? So the survey shows that predominantly people will choose lovable fools than competent jerks, kind of just showing the way that being genuinely generous and likable plays a long way. Like you could be always good to be competent and know your subject matter, but be likable, be perceived as generous, always have a way out. So there are two practitioners of the networking that I would like to talk about very quickly. So first is the Susan Cain, author of Quiet, and she's also a TED speaker on the power of introverts. And I included the link here. It's a TED talk. I think that's for like 40 minutes or so. You guys can review it on your spare time. You can share the link afterwards. But essentially, she had a couple points that she made from those networking tips. She's also an introvert herself. So the first thing is collect the kindred spirits, which means that talk to people who you like to speak to, right? So relax. Networking is not about, don't create that special purpose for networking. Just go out, meet people you like, and then maintain some kind of relationship. It's simple as that. And also focus on what you're doing, not what you're getting or even giving. So this kind of runs contradictory to what we just talked about, reciprocity, the give and take. Right here, just focus on, hey, you're here to have fun, you're here to meet people. Don't give yourself too much purpose. Don't make it sound like too transactional, right? And then here's a concrete examples of a tips that I should give. So if you can, in a small group of people, try to give a speech first. And then that might sound a little challenging to you, but at the same time, imagine this: if you were able to give like a 2-minute speech in a small group, people will come to you knowing that they know how to speak to you, right? They know who you are, they know everything about you, they know how to start a conversation with you. So allow them to give them the opportunity to connect to you, right? So if you can start a speech at the very beginning, that actually give you some leverage with networking. And here's a plan B. Not everyone can do that with the preparing the speech, right? So if you can prepare a few talking points for yourself, and then prepare to just to speak to people afterwards, that can accomplish almost the same thing. And set a quota means that you want to be able to, especially if you're an introvert person, you want to be able to achieve a certain goals. So let's say this week I'm going to attend 1 or 2 networking events, and after I get there, I can call it good for the day, right? I can go back to my cozy little rooms and do my own lonely things, right? That's totally fine. But make sure you hit 1 or 2 quota so you do not have this FOMO, fear of missing out afterwards. So that's also good advice for those who are introverts. And also choosing your people. Before networking events, sometimes their attendees list are disclosed, right? So you are able to see who they are. If you can, reach out to them, find out who they are, and then send out some emails, send out a LinkedIn message, maybe even meeting before meetings, right? So not everyone's going to respond, but some will, right? So not everyone's going to respond back, but those who will, have a better connection. And even for people who do not respond back, you have the second opportunity when you meet face to face with them at those events. And then lastly is pace yourself and be strategic, which means that if you go to a networking event, if you go to a seminar, you only have this much time in your life or at the seminar. So really pace yourself, pick and choose. You can't have everything, but just pick and choose a few that matters to you and be strategic about who you speak to and how you want to spend your time. And the second person I want to speak very quickly is Heidi Rosen. Some of you guys might know her. She's a very famous Silicon Valley executive. She also happens to be Stanford graduate business lecturer. And she probably is perceived as one of the most well-connected senior executives at Silicon Valley. So a couple of famous quotes. Relationship is built on performance and consistency, and you can actually get by with fewer interaction. So when you maintain a relationship, deliver, right? When people reach out to you for help, you can't say yes to everything. We'll talk about that later. But within your ability, try to spend time to cultivate that relationship. And once you do, once you have this consistency, reputation, that relationship can be built easily. People know that if they reach out to you, they'll get some answer. And I really like the second quote too. It's easier to get to know people when they're not famous, right? So there's sometimes we'll talk about mistakes later. Sometimes people like to network up, and that's important, right? At one point in time, you're a little junior. You need to know the boss. You need to know the boss's boss. But at times, especially if you're mid-career, it's good to know people who are not yet so famous or so successful. But by the time they become famous, if you already have this healthy relationship, you're already well connected, right? So that's also a helpful tip for managing this relationship. And then she does something very special. So Heidi Rosen has this awesome, very expensive mansion up in Silicon Valley. So of course, not everyone can do this, but she invited roughly 10 to 15 people to her house, probably once every week for a dinner party. And her rule of thumb for that is you want to create a group where you don't know half the people. So if you know everyone, then what's the point of having a networking event, right? If you don't know anyone, then it becomes really challenging to break ice. And if you know half the people and don't know the other half, then you can also offer that opportunity to, give yourself a chance to introduce those who you know to those who you don't know, right? So you're able to sort of establish that connection and be able to offer something. And in reciprocity, people give back, right? It's also easier for you to connect the other half than connect you to 100% of your guests. And I really like this advice too, the emailing the new contact the next day. So be committed, spend maybe 2 minutes, spend 5 minutes right after a info session, networking event, just send an email. Recap what you said, offer some advice if there's any question that's raised up. So this way, ensure there's commitment and ensure contact before needing them, right? And then lastly is able to say no. Not everything can be done. So especially if you have a big connections, a big network, then people sometimes reach out to you and say, hey, can you introduce me to that person? Or can you, connect me to that VC so that I can get more funding? So you want to be able to evaluate. You can't pass on every single request. Sometimes you need to be able to say no in a nice fashion. And you can say, hey, I don't think you're ready for that. Maybe come back in 6 months and ask me what I can do. So you got to pick and choose. If you just plainly say everything, say yes to everything, you'll be extremely exhausted. That's number one. Number two, the connection they try to reach out to will also kind of treat you as, hey, don't just pass on everyone to me. That also kind of deviate from that, from the network that you already have, right? Kind of diminish the power of your relationship. All right, so lastly, this is actually one of my last slides. So common mistakes, do not wait to network until you have an objective, right? This is the transactional aspect. And always focus on network up. That's also not a good idea. Try to, your own cohort can rise over time. So remember that it's always good to know people before they become famous. So that's a very important quote to remember. And lastly, think of a network connection as an endpoint. So you need to spend time and cultivate that relationship. And maybe BigJoe, and I can talk about that later. I see some of the questions that came in is how do you maintain, how do you, establish that relationship and then maintain that relationship afterwards, but making sure that, your endpoint is not a connection. Your endpoint, there's no endpoint, right? It's everybody you meet is embedded in his own network, and it helps you to understand them and then present new opportunities. So, and I think that's it from my slides. So I want to be able to turn it back to BigJoe and talk about some of his personal experiences.
All right, thank you very much, Daniel, for your sharing. So then I just talk about a few theories that I completely agree. I nodded many times to read those things that I completely agree. And then for me, I'm going to talk a little more on the practical level on how you actually do something. Before I start, I want to talk about what angle I'm going to talk about. So networking actually impacts many things. For example, if you are a salesperson, right, you want to network to get your sales lead, then you need network, right? If you are somebody who looks for a job, then you need to network in order to find someone who is going to refer you, or you find a opening out there. If you are like a CEO of a startup company, you need to hire people. Then you also need to network to get referred. If you are a VC, right, or the other way, if you're a startup, you want to find funding, right? It's also networking involved. So there are many practices of networking, but they are actually very similar. So I am going to use job hunting as an example, but it's actually apply all different angles of networking. And also, when I came to US, I found it very challenging to do networking. If you are finding networking challenging, please input 1 in the chat box, in the chat panel. Tell me you are feel challenging in networking in the US. The reason I'm asking you is because I was in the exact same boat. I think I'm doing much better right now, but I want to let you know that I wasn't born like this. I learned it hard way. So everybody can learn, everybody can get better, okay? So I'm going to talk about a few things I learned throughout the way, and you don't need to make those mistakes again. The first thing I want to talk about is the mindset of networking, So at the very beginning, I have a mindset of, I don't know where that come from. It come from China, where I come from, right? I said, well, if I network with others, for example, if I want to look for someone to refer me a job, right, or other things by looking for a job, right? Same thing for sales or same thing of investment. I'm kind of begging others for help, and I feel very bad about that. And people don't need to help me, and I feel I'm inferior. I'm too humble, and that feeling is so bad. So I either could not express myself very confidently when I speak to people, or I just undermine myself. oh, I don't want to reach out to him because I'm too tiny. He's a big boss. He's a big man and he doesn't need help. And then I basically lost a lot of opportunities out there. And also, one people rejected me. I said, oh, can I have a cup of coffee with you? And he said, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't have time. No matter how he or she how polite he or she was, I feel very frustrated. I feel, oh, people rejected me. I said, oh, I thought myself, I'm not good enough. I'm begging other people. So, I feel so frustrated and I was so afraid to reach out to other people again. Do you feel the same? Do you feel that you are begging others? Do you feel like, you want to undermine yourself if you reach out for networking? If you do, you can press 1 in the chat box. I want to tell you, right now, because I already graduated, now working at Google, a lot of people reach out to me. That's just from the other side of the table. What happened is people like to help you. People like to help you. People like to help others. But there are some rules on this. There are rules on this. So first of all, let me tell you why people like to help. First of all, in general, people are kind. They want to help people and they feel really good about it. Second, oftentimes by helping you, this person can strengthen their influence and network. For example, if you came from the same school I went to, and then you taught me how to find a job in Silicon Valley, and I help you succeed, and you came to Silicon Valley, now our school network, our alumni network becomes strong in Silicon Valley. That's good for me, right? And also, if I help you succeed, right, then there's a kind of a value I provide to you, and one day if I need help from you, I will easily reach out, right? So from the other side of the table, people like to help you. They'll not say, oh, you reach out to me, I don't have time. But there are rules. There are rules. The key rule over here is when you reach out to other people, and then when other people want to, they will help you only if they think you are a person that is worthy of helping. Worthy of helping. And that's important. So what does worthy here mean? What does worthy here mean? So, for example, if you have some really good background and a really good fit for the role that you're applying for, you need to tell the people you reach out to. For example, someone says, oh, I want to be let's say product manager in Silicon Valley, but I have no related experience. Then what I would think is that, well, that's gonna be really hard. I can help this person, but I don't have much time. And then what if I spend time and he could not get a job, and then it's waste of time of both of us, right? But if you tell me, I have, even though I don't have background in tech industry, but when I was in college, I learned computer science and programming by myself. I built an app, and also I started my own company, even though I failed, but I learned a lot in terms of how to run an internet company, right? If you say that to me, I think, oh, this guy does have some motivation and background on this. If I help this person, he would be possibly succeed. And that actually make me more willing to help this person, right? And also you need to, be very polite and also be, how to say, you need to respect people, right? There are sometimes I really don't want to help somebody because I don't think this person is polite enough. Some people just came to me and add my WeChat account, say, oh, I'm going to interview with a company like Facebook, a PM role. Can you do a mock interview with me? My question is, who are you, right? Why you reach out to me? You have not introduced yourself, and you have not told me your background. And I don't have any confidence that if I spend my precious time with you, you will get a job, right? So always do this, can to visit people, do whatever, be very polite, introduce yourself, introduce the background, and then tell the other people why you are very competent, why you're very good. And the bonus point is you did some research so that people understand that you are very sincere. For example, if you have done research about the role of a company, also about the person itself, say, oh, Daniel, I'm really interested in your company, and then I know you are VP Analytics, and then you're also managing the CYPN. I know somebody from this organization who spoke very highly of you because you blah, 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 blah. So basically, if this person tells Daniel that, well, I did some research about this, I'm very sincere, I put some effort onto this, right? In addition to being very polite, introduce yourself, as well as be very competent, show your competence on this role, then people will be willing to help you. So let me circle back what I said. People are willing to help others only if he thinks or she thinks this person is worthy of helping. And if you put this way, if you want to reach out, if you want to ask for help, then you need to demonstrate you are a person that is worthy of helping. You can be humble, but you don't have to feeling that you are begging somebody. That's not the right mindset, okay? And then you can look at one of my videos in my channel. I did talk about this, how to effectively ask for help for others. This is about the networking at the very beginning, what you think about yourself, what you think about your network. Second is from approach perspective. As I said, some people like just reach out to people, send an email, can I grab a coffee with you? Can I make a phone call with you? And this person does not reply you. And then this person becomes so frustrated, and then he never reach out again. And that's something I actually experienced, because I reached out to a lot of people who did not reply to me. Now, as I'm on the other side of the table, a lot of people reach out to me, I don't reply everybody. There are two cases. One case is I think this person has not done a good job. He has not demonstrated that he's worthy of helping. For example, he does not introduce himself, it does not introduce himself, or he does not demonstrate that he's a competent person. Then I did not reply because I want to give this person a lesson. I want this person to reflect on their own. Second case is that because I'm too busy, and which is often the case. So I don't have time. It doesn't mean that you are not good. It does not mean that you are good. You're not good. It's just because I don't have time to help everybody. So in that case, when you reach out to somebody and this person does not reply you, if you have done everything right, and that's okay. That's okay if you do not reply because everybody's busy. Right? So then what you think about this is like you need to reach out to multiple persons, multiple people. And then some of them may reply you, some of them may not. And that is okay. That is okay. For example, you reach out to, let's say you are going to interview, let's say Amazon. Okay, interview with Amazon. You find 9 people you want to talk to, and then we send out 9 emails. And 3 of them reply, say, okay, let's have a chat. That is success. That is not failure. Don't think about it failure. It's actually success. You have to, consider this what I call the ratio or the rate of not replying you as a very normal factor in your network, kind of activities, and that is totally okay. Totally okay. Next, I'm going to talk about what is the principle or what is networking, right? What do you need? What do you get out from networking? So what actually what you get out from networking is building relationship. Let me be more. Let me repeat again. Building relationship or relationship building. So plain word means that the other person needs to remember you and have a positive impression, so that this person will help you at some point. So, but what is not relationship building? So the case that you guys are here, you are listening to, let's say, me or Daniel speak. That is not relationship building. And put it, that's not. The reason is because, okay, Daniel from this speech, right? But he does not know you. So this is not relationship building. The best way for communication in a relationship is to have a one-on-one communication. One-on-one is the best way to build a relationship. However, you ask me, well, if that's the case, should I avoid attending events like this, either on a online or offline? No, you should still join those kind of networking events, which is public. Now, oftentimes you find, for example, you go to a event, let's say offline, there's a speaker out there, and after speaking, maybe a lot of people will surround that person, right? Ask for his or her question, and this person will answer. And in that case, this person will not remember you, which is okay. But that is the meaning of that is to poke a very small hole between you and that person. Even though you guys do not know each other, but there's a small hole you poke, so that you create the follow-up opportunity to create a one-on-one communication. That is the key. That is key. So when you join either online or offline, but kind of like public events, right? Always try to talk to those speakers, and if this person does not remember you, that's okay. Follow up. Follow up is important. Follow up. I say, can I grab a coffee with you? Can I exchange email with you? Can I call you? Right? Anything is okay. As long as you can have a one-on-one, you can have a time that this person exclusively with you, that is good enough. That's good enough. And you can ask this person what is the best way that you prefer. For example, for me, the best way I prefer is to just chat on WeChat. I don't have time to talk to everybody on the phone, but I'm okay to connect on WeChat. So that you can ask this person, what is this person's preference? Once you get a one-on-one communication, then you kind of like, you start building the relationship. You all have a kind of tie between you two. So let me just step back to summarize here. What you need to do is to build a tie that is let the other person remember you and also have a positive impression. And the way to do that are two steps. First, join events, like public events. Well, for example, people are speaking, things like that. And then speak to this person, even though not on one-on-one setting, you are poking a hole between the relationship between you two, and then follow up, setting a one-on-one time with whatever method this person prefers, so that you are actually creating a tie. And that maybe this tie is still very weak, which is okay. And you can always try to strengthen your tie later. But you are building a relationship out there. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going to talk about the invitation of networking. So if you find a job online, and then you want, for example, let's say you want to work for a finance manager role at Amazon, and then you like that role. You think you're going to apply for it. Are you going to apply for this online? Don't do it. Never, 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 apply a job online unless you have to. Okay? So online application for job is really, really difficult. Really difficult. Your rate of passing the resume round is going to be really low, and referral can significantly help the rate of passing the resume round. Then what do you do? So here's a workflow I can share with you. First, look at all your people, your first degree connection. For example, you have first degree connection. You can search for LinkedIn. Say, well, I connect to somebody that has worked for Amazon, right? And then reach out to this person. Say, okay, can I speak with you? Can you refer me on this role? That's always the best. If you do not have anyone that works for Amazon, what do you do? Second case is you look at if you have a second degree friends or connection who can help you. The way to do this is to search LinkedIn, say Amazon, finance manager, and then you see somebody have a 2 next to this person's name, right? So this person is a second degree, means you know somebody that knows this person. What do? You need to reach out to the common connection in the middle. Ask this person, do you really know this guy? If you do, are you comfortable referring me to this person to have a chat? Using a midpoint, a midman for introduction is very powerful. It's way, 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 way better than you reach out to somebody you don't know. Okay? But you need to ask the middleman, because sometimes people connected on LinkedIn are not the real friends. Sometimes just like a connection for the sake of connection. And I have some of my connection in that bucket. So you need to ask this person, are they, is this person the right person you can refer me to? Okay? So this is like you have a second degree. If you still cannot find anyone, then you maybe send a cold email to somebody. Say, oh, can you do an information interview with you? And in that case, it's probably going to be a pretty low rate of reply. However, as I said, you send 9, 3 reply. That's good. Okay, that's good. And in those cases, you do not want to send cold email to anyone. You need to send a cold email to the people have some kind of commonality with you. For example, that you went to Wharton, right? And this person also went to Wharton, and then you can send an email to them, okay, even though you don't know me, but I'm also a Wharton alumni. and maybe we have taken certain classes together. I still, I like the professor XYZ. Show the sharing commonality, okay? Or maybe, even there's nothing, if there's nothing in common, if you find somebody who is Chinese, I would just send an email, say, oh, I'm also Chinese, I'm exploring opportunities. Are you okay with, helping me? Some people just okay with that, okay? And at the last, if you can do nothing, then you apply online. That's gonna be really hard. However, as I said, do the first three things. Look at whether you have first connection. Second, look at whether you have second connection, or you send out cold email for informational interview and then ask for referral. One thing that I think if you have not done, you really need to do is to connect all your connections in real life on LinkedIn. For example, let's say if you know Daniel and then you guys are friends, offline, do connect this person on LinkedIn. The reason for that is if you do not connect somebody you know on LinkedIn, you will not see a second degree of person who will help you that connect with him. Because in that case, that person will not be a second degree because you have not connected with your first degree yet. Okay, so this is really important, really important. Bring every connection you have from offline to online. I brought all my the primary school classmates, middle school classmates, college classmates, graduate school classmates, MBA classmates, MBA alums, people who I play video game with, people who I play basketball with, and people who join student activity with me together back to college, people who apply MBA together with me, people who play, for example, like cards with me, whatever. All the people I know, everybody I know, I bring to my LinkedIn profile. So I have all my first degree connections on LinkedIn. And if I search for this, then I can find a very large net of second degree. Think about this. On average, every person have 150 connections. 150 connections. 150 is actually pretty low. 150 is actually pretty low because if you want to look for a job or like the sales or hiring, only 150 people will be able to help you. That's kind of pretty low. But if every person also have 150 connections, then 150 times 150, you got 22,500. 22,000 is actually pretty large. If you have a very large network, let's say me, I have 7,000 first degree connection. If everybody got 150, that's close to a million. That's close to a million. So when you have a million second degree connection, it's very easy for you to reach almost every company in the internet or every company that's in the US. It's easy for you to reach out as long as people can refer you to the right person in that company, right? So always do bring your offline connection to LinkedIn. That is really important to do. Okay, now the other thing is when you reach out to a person, say, "Oh, can I do an informational interview with you?" By the way, do you guys know informational interview? If you know informational interview, please press 1 in the chat box. If you're not, press 0. Okay, a lot of people knows about this. Some people know about this. Okay, let me just quickly introduce what is informational interview. Informational interview is a very common concept in the business world in the US, meaning that you invite somebody for chat, and just seeking information. I don't think there's a right word in Chinese actually for this concept. In Chinese, maybe we just say, "Oh, 聊一下," right? That's pretty much it. But in US, it's kind of like a pretty formal kind of concept, and it's particularly in the business world. Can we have an information interview? Can we grab a coffee together? Can we take a phone call together, right? And the information interview is basically you are interviewing somebody to gather information. So let's get back to this. What are the goals of informational interview? There are usually two goals. One goal is to get to know the other side. For example, if you are applying for a job and then you find somebody who also works in that job in that company, and then what you do is you can ask, what is the company culture like? What can I do more to enhance my resume to get my resume, picked by the HR, right? Like that. You know about this person and then know about the company and use those information onto your resume, onto your job application, right? This is the first one. And this is often the one that people only know about. There's actually a second goal. Second goal people often neglect. That is using informational interview as a way to promote yourself, and build a relationship. And that's strange. Think about this. You are interviewing somebody else and you ask questions, right? They answer your questions. How can you promote yourself by asking questions? So that's really strange, right? And then the point here is, do not make this a one-side conversation. You just ask and the other just listen or answer. Make it a conversation. Make it like they talk, you talk, you talk, they talk. Kind of like conversation. And that is really important, really important. And always remember what I said earlier. In this process, you need to deliver the message that you are a person worthy of helping. You are a person worthy of helping, okay? So let me give you a little example how to promote yourself when you are asking somebody else, even though this sounds strange, right? So let me first talk about a few questions that I think are not good enough. For example, first one is, somebody may ask the other person, what is a typical day of a consultant? Have you asked this question before? If you want someone to become a consultant, or what is a typical day of a PM, right? Second question, I'm very interested in the venture capital world. Can you tell me some top VC firms in Silicon Valley? Right. Third question is, how does a company match PMs with product? Right. So the three examples I just mentioned, I think are not very good questions. The reason I think they are not very good questions is because it has no you in the question. You have not talked about anything about yourself in that question, so that there is no opportunity for you to promote yourself in the question when asking somebody else. Okay, think about a way which you can put yourself into a scenario in the question, so that you can ask other people the question based on what you know about it. For example, one good example would be, hey Daniel, thank you for your time. One question I have for you is, last summer I did my internship at Facebook, and I was doing A/B testing using Google Analytics. Are you also using Google Analytics, or are you using something else like Mixpanel because of the different funnel management feature? See the difference. So in this case, I'm promoting myself because I tell Daniel that I have experience in A/B testing. I have experience in Google Analytics. And then the question I talk about a little more, deep insights, certain things. And Daniel happened to be an analytics VP, so that he knows a lot about maybe Google Analytics, a lot about Mixpanel, about funnel management. And then this person may have better impression on me because this person doesn't know stuff, right? Instead of asking a question that you could have asked anybody and is not showing yourself, right? So this is something that I really want to talk about. And then this basically summarizes my short sharing today. Let me just quickly recap what I said today. So I said networking, the mindset is, do not think you are begging others. If people want to help you if people think you are a person worthy of helping, okay? And also, if you reach out to a lot of people and they do not reply, and that is okay. When you reach out 9, 3 reply, that is success. That is not failure. All right? And the networking, you need to build a relationship. You need to find a chance for one-on-one communication to relationship building. So always follow up after you meet somebody in a public event. And then for the invitation of networking, look at your first degree connection first, and then look at your second degree and see if your first degree in between can recommend you. And then if you cannot find anyone, then send a cold email for information interview. And then for information interview, ask questions that could promote yourself, that could put yourself into the question. That will help you to demonstrate that you are a person worthy of helping. with that, I'm going to hand over mic to Daniel, and Daniel can go through the questions that he collected from the audiences.
All right, thank you, BigJoe. This is very, very detailed and awesome too. Like it's, thanks for putting everything into, kind of major bullet points and then just kind of a paraphrase at the end. Hope everyone took notes. And so let's just kind of talk about some of the questions we collected during the Eventbrite sign up. So I think we had a kind of open-ended questions for you guys to fill out, and we sort of organize it into different buckets, into network basics, nurturing the relationship, and then how to effectively network, and also the special time during the COVID-19. So let's talk about the basics first. So BigJoe, you talk about quite a few about you.
Can you present? Because I think you have a slides, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, can you see my slides?
Yes, but you probably better to make it okay.
Okay, much better this way, huh? All right. Yeah, so the 4 sections, I'm just gonna focus, I might not get a chance to ask every single question, but I wanna talk about the basics first. So what are some of the benefits for the network? I guess specifically, we wanna see one example coming from you. If you can share, some of the pros and cons of the network.
Oh, totally. So actually, this is something that Daniel already mentioned, but in this world, a lot of information are hidden. They are hidden in the network of people. For example, if you look for a job, right, you can look at the job description. That is the public information. But job description does not tell you what you can do to make your resume stand out. And people who work in that company can help you. They know about, actually what does this job, do, right? So those are the information that's really helpful for you to revise your resume, get the information you need, right? And also some information are so critical. Let's say if you want to build a sales, pipeline, right? Sales pipeline, and then you want to sell to a certain target, audience, and then something in between can refer you to that person, and then you can close the deal. Those are so important. Those information are not public. You have to build a network in order to make that happen, right? So network is a kind of like, you think about this, like there's a public information space. There's a hidden information space, and I believe that hidden information is way larger than the public information. That is why we have networking, and that's why we have benefit of network.
Absolutely. Can you think of some of the cons, some of the shortcomings of networking? Can you think of any example?
I think the biggest con, which I also talk about, is networking takes time. It's not very easy to do. It takes your effort, takes skills, takes time, and then because there are so many people in the world, right? There are a few like billions of people in the world. It's impossible for you to know everybody. So you can always do more networking, but networking as a thing is infinite. So you can you have to spare time to do that. So I think that's a major con.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I think we can quickly move to the second section. I think you talked about a lot of the principles of networking already. So let's talk about the nurturing the relationship aspect. So a lot of people who sign up for this event are introverts, and including myself too. And I think you also talked about a little bit about your perspective. So as an introvert, how do we follow up, and how do we reach out in the first place, and how do we follow up after the events to maintain that long-term relationship?
Yeah, so I'm an introvert myself as well. So I think that I can totally relate to that. So I think introvert does a very good job in a one-on-one setting. Really, I really think introverts are great with one-on-one. Introverts are not so great when there's a lot of people. For example, you have a table of 10 people, right? It's not organized. Everybody can speak. In that situation, I think introvert a little bit challenging. But if it's one-on-one, just you and me, I think introvert does a good job. And introverts are really good at cultivating thoughtful and deep conversation. That is also very helpful to build a relationship. When somebody talks to you about something that's really deep instead of something very shallow and superficial, and then your tie between each other actually become very strong. Right? So that's something in general, I found it useful. So I don't think introverts are not good with networking. I think introverts are actually pretty good. And to many people's surprise, many salespeople, many very good salespeople are very introverted. The reason for that is because when they get to this one-on-one situation with a sales perspective, and then those salespeople can easily understand the perspective of other people, and then successfully master the one-on-one conversation and sell out the product. So I think that's fine. I think there are pros and cons of being extrovert or being introvert. Just use your strengths. Cultivate opportunities for one-on-one, and then promote yourself in the one-on-one setting. For maintaining a relationship, that's a totally different thing, and that is actually different. That is actually nothing to do with introvert. I think either in the extrovert or the introvert all need to maintain a relationship, and that is a very large topic. I can share a little bit about my thinking on this. So first of all, managing a very large network relationship is almost impossible because, as I said, there are infinite number of people in the world. So you just can't. You just cannot get to maintain a relationship with everybody. So what I usually do is, if people I really really like, I have some like personal likeness of these people I really like. I usually just circle back this, oh, how's it going with you, right? After maybe a month or a year or something like that. I often do it in a very light way. For example, just send a WeChat message, just like a few words, super light, because I don't have time, right, for a very long conversation. And then for the majority of people I know, or even if I don't know, that actually touched on the reason I started my YouTube channel. Is because I think roughly after my WeChat hit 5,000 connection, and then my LinkedIn hit 5,000 connection, I realized that it's just impossible to continue to enlarge my network and maintain that. It's just not possible. So I basically shifted my strategy from building a relationship onto building a media. So building media means that people know me, but I don't know them, and I'm okay with that, because just no way for me to maintain a two-sided relationship. And I'm still doing my network, but I don't do as much as before. I don't meet everybody that wanted to meet me. I will meet people that I want to meet, and then for the rest, I will let them to subscribe to my channel so that I can still speak with them. It's a single-sided communication, not a two-sided communication, and that is the best, scalable way that I can think of.
That's great. I think that's to your point. I think that's part of a larger discussion about influence, how to kind of extend our influence beyond the power of network. And I think I mentioned a little earlier about the examples where I think coming from one of the influencers as well, giving a speech before a certain event, and then people know about you and they know how to start conversation with you. I think this is very analogous to what you described, having a media, social media, or some kind of a YouTube video, so people get to know you, and then so that's easier for them to start a conversation with you. That's perfectly tied together. Okay, that's great. And then I think I'm going to skip maybe one or two questions here, but I want to get to the bottom questions. I think there's a lot of, predominantly our audience this time are mostly Chinese or Chinese Americans. So what are the differences you see between networking in the States and in
I actually think I'm actually better in terms of networking in the US rather than networking in China. Because in US, people treat networking very openly. Networking in US is a very fair word. It's a fair concept. Everybody knows the importance of it, and everybody is okay with both networking with each other, or people reach out to you for networking. And people are all very open with that. And this is the culture of the US, which I think is great. In China, people feel like networking, or maybe a separate concept of a guanxi, have a little bit of stigma on that. A little bit like, it's something, under the table of something. So I actually like the US way much better. I think one of the reasons might be because in the US, right, even you network people, you are still doing something that's very legit. While in China, sometimes, I'm not saying always, but sometimes when you know some powerful people, you can do something that is less legit. So that's something, of course, I do not recommend. But that's kind of the difference between US and China. In the Western world, I would say in general, networking is highly accepted. And then in China, I would say in the younger generation, in people who work in the international companies, probably their networking, their mindset of networking is more to the Western world. But on the rest of China, the majority of China, they think networking / 关系 is a more hidden thing. And they do not want to share their network or 关系 with others, because those are things that they can find, powerful usage of those relationships to even do something that, beyond normal use of power. So that's actually to a very important, interesting thing, which is why LinkedIn is so successful in US, but not that successful in China. It's because in China, most important relationships are not something that you can share with others, and you don't want other people to know about it. So that's a big difference.
Wow, that's very insightful information. When I think of LinkedIn, yeah, or I guess there's our Chinese equivalents of LinkedIn as well. I'm not sure how they're doing, but I think that in your perception of how you value your relationship, how willing are you to disclose that, probably has some cultural difference between the two sides.
Exactly.
Absolutely right. And I'm going to move to the next section, the networking effectively. And then the first question comes on from a person that, one audience that has a very specific question for you. So knowing that you have 7,000 connections on LinkedIn and 5,000 connections on WeChat, you probably have 3 different WeChat IDs too, right? So how do you maintain, or first of all, squeeze out the time to maintain such a large network? And also number 2 is, do you remember who they are? Like, for me, I do have 5,200 people. So I have quite a few on my WeChat, and maybe 4,000 on LinkedIn, not as many as you, and I tend to forget. So do you have a way to remember name, background, and then so you can follow-ups with them?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So first of all, as I already mentioned, that I don't have time to manage a large network. So as my network grows, I just realized that's just not possible. So later on, I turned myself from a network to a media, right? Which I basically accept the defeat. I just cannot, remember everybody. And as much as I can, as much as I try to, the tools I use, mostly 2. One is LinkedIn, one is WeChat. So in the non-Chinese world, I usually use LinkedIn. In the Chinese world, I just use WeChat. So let's say in WeChat, anytime I learn, get to know someone, I usually ask what's your background. And oftentimes I put their information into notes of WeChat. And then if they have a photo, I probably put a photo onto the WeChat as well. One important thing is I cherish the history of chat history a lot on WeChat. So some people don't. Some people just delete all the chat history. I found it's really important to retain those chat history. So whenever I change the new phone, I always migrate my chat history from one phone to the other. So starting from 2017, actually my phone on 2017 actually broke down. So I did not have anything before that. But after 2017 until now, there are 3 years, right? So I maintain all the chat history of my connections, so that hopefully my phone will not break down one day and I can retain them forever. So whenever somebody have not spoken with me for very, very long time, I can look at the chat history. Oh, I spoke with this person 2 years ago. We talk about something, right? So I cherish that. I think it's important. On the LinkedIn level, so LinkedIn is very good as a search network. So WeChat is good for, it's more like a CRM. You can maintain or retain what you have said to this person, right? But WeChat is not very good for searching. For example, I want to search for somebody who is currently a VP at analytics and graduate from Wharton, and I don't think WeChat can tell me that, and I wouldn't make that note to Daniel on my WeChat. But I can search that for LinkedIn if I connect with Daniel. I say, I want to search for somebody who graduated from Wharton and then currently a VP analytics, and then the LinkedIn can tell me. So I don't remember those people's background, their names, blah blah. I just search for LinkedIn, and LinkedIn can get back to me. So that's actually I do a lot. For example, somebody asked me, okay, can you introduce me to somebody who blah blah blah? my usual reply is, okay, I cannot tell you right now. Let me search my LinkedIn. Right? It's more like a search engine. I think that's going to be pretty powerful. Yep.
Oh, that's yeah. I think this to kind of concur to that message. I also try to preserve all the phone conversation, WeChat conversation I had since 2017 as well. I lost my phone in Mammoth Mountain in a ski trip, so all the conversation before that is lost forever. So unfortunate, but like afterwards, I've been trying to be super protective of the conversation history. I think one of the thing is you want to get the largest phone, with the phone with the largest memory you can. So 256 gig is required for having this kind of a memory too, because WeChat really blows up. In terms of storage, I think it takes about I don't know. It's probably half my phone storage is dedicated to WeChat. So you remember.
But if you don't have enough memory, I think you can delete the photos or delete the chat history about the group chat. I think group chat is not that important. But one-on-one, because there's a history about how you met this person. So that's actually pretty important, message to be retained.
Yes, absolutely. The metadata is very important. And then moving on to the next question in sequential form. So sometimes you're in a room, let's say this is a physical discussion, right? You happen to be talking to someone at cocktail parties, and the person right in front of you has a very, very different background. Sometimes you don't know how to start a conversation, right? Let's say the person you're speaking to are a neurosurgeon, or the person you spoke to are a
sorry. Well, which question is on the
so number two. So the how to network with people from very diverse.
Oh, I see. Got it.
So in the setting of like a physical one-on-one, face-to-face, it's kind of awkward to back out. It's also but also it's hard to start the talk, right? So how do you interact in the situation?
So this is a very good question. So first of all, you need to think about, do you want to spend time with people? Because this is not to be very snobbish or something, but your time is precious. You don't have time to, as I said, there are a few billions of people in the world. You can't know everybody. So you have to protect your time to meet the people that you think is worthy of your time, right? And then let's say, assume this person is something that you want to build a connection with. And then to build connection, one important thing is to find commonality. Getting the same background or industry is one way of, one commonality, right? But it's not the only one. Let's say you work with, somebody is a product manager. I'm a product manager. I speak to, you are PM. Oh, I'm PM too. So we can talk about, some information about our job. Of course, that's great. What about somebody is a different, like job or career background? Then try to find other things that you have things in common, right? And that probably involve a little bit probing, and also that will involve a little bit like a knowledge base building. What I mean by knowledge base? So as you speak to many people, and as you maybe just like read articles, your head, so that you have something to talk about something. You guys hear me? I think it was disconnected a little bit.
Yeah, we can hear you now. I think there was a little brief pause, but it's working now.
Oh, okay. I think my Bluetooth disconnected. Now, I think right now it's connected again. So, for example, let's say you met somebody. Let's just give you one real story, okay? When I first came to US, I entered a networking event with my classmates. And one of the classmates is a US person, and then we just what's the background? Where are you from? And then I come from Portland. And then Portland, because I have a little bit background or knowledge about NBA. I know Portland is in Oregon, has an NBA team called the Trailblazers. I said, so you come from Portland, Oregon? They get the Trailblazers there? And this person, no. I actually come from Portland in a state, in state of Maine, in the East Coast. I was like, how come? Two cities have the same name. And then, let me tell you the story, because actually the Portland in Maine is actually earlier than the Portland in Oregon. And then we get talk about this. And the reason that this conversation started is because I know I have a little bit knowledge about Portland, right? That's one thing. You find something in similarity, right? There's always something. I found it very hard to find there's no similarity at all. But when you ask where from, or where did you go to school, right? Have you been to a certain place, right? So those are the things that the more knowledge you have, the better connection that you can build each other. Another example would be, let's say this person is like a medical device engineer and I am a PM in technology industry. There should be nothing, right, in connection. And then this, oh, so where did you go to school? Oh, I actually went to Caltech. Oh, Caltech, nice. And then you search for brain. What's about Caltech, right? And then you think about the show, right? Supposed to happen in Caltech, graduate school students, right? Who are the Big Bang Theory, right? The Big Bang Theory are supposed to happen there. And then, oh, I watched the show. It was so good. Is it really like study in Caltech just like in the show, the Big Bang Theory, right? And this person, oh, actually not that nerdy. We're actually very smart. And anyway, so that you can start a conversation, right? So think about certain things that you know about this person, and then you connect with your knowledge. If you find something that you have actual commonality, that will be the best. That will be the best. For example, if I happen to find someone who went to Georgia Tech, I always say I went to Emory. So we are like a friendly schools in Atlanta, because both schools in Atlanta have a very good relationship, right? So if somebody went to Georgia Tech, actually it has nothing to do with me, but because we both went to school in Atlanta, so then that's become a connection between the two. So always find some common background. Doesn't have to be from an industry perspective, could be something else.
That's great. It's I try to use a very similar tactics, and I say when I speak to a neurosurgeon, because I know nothing about neurosurgeon, but I do know like how data is being used by the neuroscience world, how AI is being used for identifying tumor sizes and all that. You can start talking about I'm not a neurosurgeon myself, but here are the things that I heard is in the development that can change the industry in the future. What do you think about those? So basically find common things that you can talk about, and if you can offer some insights, that would be the best.
Yeah. The very easiest thing to ask is where you're from, which school I go to. Because that's it. Oh, I'm from Pennsylvania. I said, oh, did you go to like UPenn or CMU? And oh, yeah, I went to UPenn. Oh, I've been there. I spoke in Walton. And then it's connected started. It doesn't have to be whatever surgeon or something. There's nothing to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The next two questions are kind of grouped together. So how to get effective referrals and how to get job opportunity from networking. So specifically, I think you talked quite a bit, when you had early conversations.
Right.
But do you know any cases, so, some real examples where one person was able to, find it? I mean, you've been at Google for a while, so you probably don't have experience going elsewhere, but do you know someone that actually got jobs through referrals, to get job opportunity just from networking?
Oh, a lot. So there are several things. First of all, networking can help you in all three steps of job hunting. First step is get to know the role. Second step is pass through the resume step. The third thing is pass through the interview step. So networking can help you in all three steps out there, right? For example, I refer a lot of people in Google. I actually successfully referred, I think, 15 Googlers. So those will reach out to me. We spoke, and then okay, I think it's good. Then let me refer you to look at job later. So I think that's very common. Myself also, I think many offers I receive, even though it's not because of referral, but because of a lot of information interview I get. For example, when I interview with Google, I spoke with I think 10 people ish. There are people who work there at Google, the people who did internship there at Google, who did internship there and then did not convert, who did internship there and converted, who used to work there and left. All kinds of people who had relationship with Google. I spoke many of them, and they gave me a lot of insights on the company, culture, the strategy, etc. So that actually helped me prepare my interview a lot. So that actually, I think I'm also a good example of get a job through networking.
Okay, perfect. And then one of the last questions, it's not actually not here, so I'm not going to talk about the last question here, but just more of a tactic, right? So in a physical setting, let's say a cocktail party or networking events, that people form groups, right? There's groups you try to go into, and there's groups you try to exit out of it. So what are some of the practical advice how to break into a group in the middle of conversation, or how do you excuse yourself from a conversation if you figure like you have enough time spent with this person or this group they want to explore elsewhere? What are some of the practical advice you can provide?
So this thing I actually observed is actually it's a culture thing. It's actually there's a certain cultural norms in the U.S. To break into, there are a few ways. One way is just go in there. Can I join you guys? Right? Just be very straightforward. Sometimes you can also break down the conversation. For example, let's say Daniel is talking to Nancy, and then I just went there and tap on Daniel's shoulder. I say, hey, Daniel, long time no see. And Nancy will know, oh, this person will going to talk to Daniel, and then she will talk to Daniel. Okay, talk to you later. This is actually very common. It's something that is accepted in this U.S. culture. So this is also something I'm actually quite surprised. How can you just interrupt other people's conversation? But this is actually pretty accepted. On the other side, if you have spoken with somebody for a while, I think it's good enough. Then usually in the large networking session, you just say, oh, great conversation. I'm going to grab a drink. Talk to you later. Right? That's also pretty common. I think this is a culture thing. This is a cultural norm. So you just learn it. It's just do what other people do.
Yeah, I think that's very common, especially latter parts about grabbing a drink. Actually grabbing a drink. And just yeah, that's I can't.
Or you don't have to say have grab a drink. You can say, I'm gonna grab a cookie or chips, and it's okay. It doesn't matter which one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and I want to move to the next section, special time during COVID-19. Before I open up to, I think there's a lot of people who messaged me about the question to you, so I want to give them an opportunity as well. So right now, as we know, we need to kind of look for opportunities, and also network virtually, right? So given the current stay-at-home circumstance and the working from home, and also the social distance, no physical networking events, how do you go about network with people?
I would say it's actually not that bad because, first of all, people have more flexible time. For example, in the past, if you want to speak to Daniel, and Daniel's working, so Daniel said, "Oh, I have a meeting between 3 and 5, and then this and that, and then if you want to come to meet my office, you have to come here exactly at 3 p.m. Otherwise, I won't have time." It's like that. But now, because everybody's working from home, so timing-wise, it's more flexible. And then as long as you have hosts in their schedule, in the agenda, then they can insert a virtual chat with you. I definitely find that virtual chat is not as good as face-to-face chat from a relationship building perspective. Oftentimes, I met somebody even during virtual chat, and when I meet this person in person, I still could not remember his name or his face because it's just harder to remember. But that is a reality. Everybody's like that, so that's okay. That's okay. One interesting technique that I think is very interesting is much more easier. It's much easier to organize a event or organize a chatting event virtually than in person. Right now, I actually did that many times. I just set up a Zoom room and allow people to join and chat with each other. It's actually very easy. Think about this thing in offline world is actually a disaster. You have to think about who have time, where to book a place, where to park your car. It's just much easier to book a online kind of event. So maybe you can be the organizer of that. I think that's actually a good thing. And there's no geographic constraint, right? Let's say today, actually, right now it's 2 p.m. Actually, today, this evening, I'm actually going to organize a networking event of people who like me, who are doing social media, such as YouTube creators, 小红书 creators, the 快手 Douyin creators. I have a virtual event later today. So it's very easy to set up. Just tell people you have this event and tell them the Zoom room, and that's it. And people come from all different places, come from East Coast, West Coast, even China. Right, so it's very easy to do those kind of things. You can organize a virtual event.
Yeah, that's I think that's kind of the go-to method for many people right now remotely. But I think kind of circling back to was one of the one of the things you mentioned is, it's kind of difficult for them to remember, your name, and especially with like an online, setting that, it's making an impression remotely is difficult. So is there anything we can do to force it to really promote ourselves under this circumstance?
So first of all, the way to stand out itself is very difficult. So as I said, if you are an organizer, you already stand out. If you organize a virtual event, if you are organizer, you already stand out. Other than that, the same practice. For example, meet people in public space such as this one, right? And reach out, form a one-on-one relationship as a follow-up. The same thing, it's just different method. You don't grab a coffee, you just add the LinkedIn, for example.
Okay, all right. I think that's all the questions I have on the panel discussion. I do want to save some time and stop sharing for the participants. The chat message. So I think someone mentioned this there's a broadcast message. I think from Yan. Networking is very exhaustive, and is there any practical to tackle with that?
It is very exhaustive. So you need to spend your time wisely. It depends on which stage are you in. If you are in a stage that you do not have a large network, you're just getting started, then I think it doesn't matter. You just build your initial network, right? If you are people like Daniel, who already know a lot of people, then you need to be a little bit more selective. You don't have time to speak to everybody. And you need to make a judgment whether you want to spend this time or not. I think, it's very, it sounds very bad, but that's a reality. You're just not able to keep up with everybody.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the next person actually just private messaged me asking you the question. So when I'm looking for a job, for example, the finance manager at Amazon, how can I tell the people I network with what I want to apply for this job and ask for referral? So what would be some of the examples I can say, because I don't know this person as well. And then what are some of the practical advice to get that?
So for example, let's you search for finance manager at Amazon, and then you find Daniel did know this person, and you reach out to Daniel. Do you know this person? Can I make a referral? And then he said, oh yeah, sure. And then he refer you to this person, and they say, oh, can I have an information interview with you? And this person accepted, and then you make a call to this person, phone call, and then during the interview, you do two things. One is you ask about information about this role, which can help you prepare for your resume and interview. And last, and also second is also promote yourself, so that the person think, oh, this person is pretty good, so maybe I can give him a referral. And then and then you can ask him for a referral. That's pretty much the process.
So that's in the best world scenario. But what happens if the counterpart is not willing to help, or such as like being rude, arrogant, impatient, or simply not responding? I guess simply not responding, we can always just ignore.
That's okay. People don't. You always assume that people will not help you, but as long as you reach out with the best method, with the best approach, and you do that, many times, some people will be willing to help you. Let's say if you reach out to 10 people, right? Only 2 will be helpful. That's okay.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So on the other hand, it's also about time management, right? You cannot. This will be a little off topic, but it's about when you look for a job or look for whatever, like sales leads or something. You just cannot spend your energy the same way for every single lead. You have to focus on the one that most important for you. Let's say if you're a job hunter, right? If Amazon is a dream job, then you need to spend a lot of time on this. Maybe reach out to 100 people. Maybe 20 of them will be willing to help you. That will be great. But you cannot reach out to 100 people for every job you apply, because you don't have that much time, right? And for other job, maybe just reach out for 1 or 2 people. If no, then that's okay, right? The same thing as sales leads. Maybe you have a large account, large customer, small customer. Then for large customer, you need to reach out to so many people in order to close the deal. For smaller ones, maybe you just, okay, it's okay, let's try whether there's some connection. If not, that's okay. So you cannot spend the same effort for every single lead. Yeah,
I think maybe I have like some example on this too. Like if you say reaching out to people on LinkedIn, I mean, always use your first connection if possible, because that actually allows you to send messages. But sometimes you do not know anyone you would want to reach out to. And then in that case, I think it's okay to subscribe to LinkedIn on the premium service too. So there's a certain number of email that you can send out, and then use them wisely, right? Because you can also just add them as connection. And in the connection message, you can I think it was a limit of 50 characters or 50 words. So it's just a limit to how many things you can type or how many words you can type. So you can use it wisely, right? For people that you might have a chance, but you don't think is really worth it, you can just use a connection request. For people that you really do want to reach out to and really want to use this precious email quota, then send out something a bit more customized and tailored and a bit more introduction by yourself. Yeah. And then I think there someone else also commented out. I think this is regarding the if you can remember all the names, everything you know about this person. Someone just mentioned you can keep a Google Doc of the person you met, and then just write down everything you can, and you can search a year later.
Yeah, that's very difficult to maintain. I'm a very lazy person, but if you are very diligent, you can.
Yes. And the next one from TA, do we need to grow our own skill set and experience before starting to network? So would it be more useful to become a more worthy person first?
Right. That is
less likely to help.
That is correct. So basically, you can only network with people that is within a certain range of your own value, own level. For example, if I now network to like a CEO of like Facebook or Amazon, that person would not speak to them. That's okay. Maybe I can speak to someone like a PM director in Silicon Valley. Maybe that's okay. But if I want to speak to CEO will not have time to speak with me. So always get better with yourself. When you are good, people will think you are a person worthy of helping or speaking to. So always get better with yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a second that strongly. So if you can find opportunity to improve your own resume, your credential, your work experience, opportunity opens up on its own, right? You get more opportunity to speak to people, and then people are more to offer them back. Absolutely true with that. So I think from Chen Yu Si, would it still be worthwhile to make a connection with someone whose company is in hiring freeze? Joe, want to take that?
Then it's totally up to you. Let's say if your goal is to find a job, and the company is not hiring right now, then the reason not to is that maybe I can spend my time doing something else so that I can get a job right now, right? But the reason to do that, there are two reasons. First, maybe you like this company a lot, even though they're not hiring right now. Maybe in the future you still have a chance to get into this company. So getting certain connection early is good. You don't want to get to know people asking for help at the point that you want to ask for help. You're always getting the connection earlier, and then later on you reach out for getting for help. Right. Second reason would be sometimes even this company is not hiring, but there's some key people that you want a good connection with, and people move all the time. For example, this person right now works for this company. Maybe a month later he moved to a different company, and that company is hiring. So that's also possible. So it depends on whether you have enough time and bandwidth. There's always a opportunity cost on doing something.
Yeah, I think I want to second that with a bullet I just mentioned in my in the lecture earlier. So don't build a connection when you need a connection. Build a connection first. It's mean to the end. So it's don't make it so transactional. So if even the company's hiring freeze, eventually the person might open up to your organization. So yeah.
Right. Exactly.
All right. And then from Winnie Siqi Wu to everyone, I think this is probably also interesting question too. So if you want to reach out to to research on the position about the certain companies, and how do you reach out to the right person? There's a lot of there's one opening, there's a lot of people in the company, but you don't know which department you will be in. So have its bit of a chart. So the position might belong to a small branch or departments as a job applicant.
Just reach out. For example, you can search for same name of the job on LinkedIn. For example, it's like a finance manager like LinkedIn, then you search for finance manager. Right? And then maybe there are multiple finance managers. For example, finance manager in the retail at Amazon, or finance manager on the AWS on Amazon, and that's okay. You just reach out and then ask this person, well, do you know about this role? and they say, oh, actually, this may not be my role. It's a different role, but maybe I can help you find the role, find the person, because they have their own connection. This all comes down to whether you are a person worth helping or not. If you are a person worth helping, and that's perceived by the other side, they will help you to find a way. I want to give a little bit emphasis here is that don't go too much. Don't be too aggressive. So if the other person say, well, I actually cannot find a connection with you for you, and then you say, okay, thank you very much, thank you for your time. Don't be like a jerk. Say, oh, you can't find it. You can do it. Please help me. don't do that. Yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, I think second on the don't be too aggressive. I often got reached out with a certain job prospect or people who want to talk to me. So sometimes I just don't have time to do a one-on-one face-to-face chat. But sometimes it's okay. So I respond back. If you're okay with just chatting through the message, I can find time to respond to your text message. That's for me to use fragmented time as opposed to dedicate half an hour during my busy schedule. So sometimes if you offer that as an option, that can also work too.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Exactly the same as Daniel. So I don't have time to speak somewhere with 30 minutes, but if you leave a message to me, to have the fraction time, I just reply you with my voice memo and maybe just 1 minute with me for me. But I can still help you with the information you needed. So that is good for everybody.
I think that's all the questions we have on the screen. Oh, never mind, we have one more. So let me just kind of walk through the administrative side of things. So once I'm done with this question, feel free to either just open up the mic and maybe ask questions directly to BigJoe, or maybe just continue typing on the screen. We'll maybe do another 5-10 minutes and then see how things are going, and then we can wrap it up for the day. So now from Jessica, how do you think we can network during this COVID time when events are harder to go to? I think, Joe, you already answered a big chunk of it. Anything you want to add on to?
No, I think I covered most of it. I think the biggest thing.
Okay, I think Joe's just dropped. Oh, never mind.
Sorry. You there?
Yeah, I can see you.
Sorry, a phone call just came in. So
okay.
The important is to better utilize online tools. And I think online tools are actually much better than offline, because a lot of things can be very scalable, such as LinkedIn, such as Zoom. It's so easy to set up event on Zoom, so easy to maintain connection on LinkedIn and WeChat as well. So I personally love it. By the way, this is off topic, but I like working from home a lot. I don't like COVID-19, but I like working from home because it's actually much easier for me to maintain my connection in a scalable way.
Absolutely. Since there's no questions right now from this, I have a personal question for myself. So oftentimes when I go into a physical conversations, a lot of people love to say talk to you and you have great conversation, but from a physical conversation, from a physical setting, you might have speaking to 15, 20 people. How do you remember their names? Because if you call if you call the wrong name, next time you see them, that's worse than not connecting.
Yeah, exactly. That's very hard. So I sometimes do these two things I can share with you, even though I don't do that every time. One thing I sometimes do is I maintain a list of people's names on my phone. For example, I opened up the notepad on my phone, and then somebody, what's your name? They told me name, and then after speaking with the person, I will just go to the side of the room and then type down this name. Because sometimes people tell you his name, and you forget immediately. You forget immediately. So it's just better at that time when you're fresh, type it down. So this is one way of doing this. Another way of doing this is I sometimes try to, of course, it depends on situation, but sometimes I try to take photo with people. So, oh, great to meet you. Can we take a photo together? And take a photo together, and then what's your name? And then we can exchange WeChat and send a photo to this person, and I also attach that photo to that person's profile on WeChat. I do that sometimes, not always, because it depends on the chemistry. You don't take photo with everybody, right? So it depends on the chemistry. So that's also something you can easy for you to remember people's name and their face.
I remember a funny thing I want to share. So I do that all the time with pictures, especially in group setting. So especially in the physical setting, before COVID-19, we have to go to after networking events, everyone goes to a dinner party, and then someone pays the bill. I always call, hey, let's take a picture together. So one is for remember their name. Number two, knows who owes you money, right? So that's a way to kind of effectively get everyone's picture and also just remember their names and who owes you whatever memo afterwards, and that's a
yeah,
nice
agree.
Yeah. The other thing I do usually myself, depending on the setting too, like if it's with American colleagues or with students here, that I tend to just pull out my phone and say, hey, can we add LinkedIn now? So this way you kind of force a connection. Eventually they will accept it, and then so you remember who you speak to. You can associate your information after the event. That might be also.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from people? Anyone wants to?
Oh, I want to know a person who's very interesting. He used, so everybody have a phone lock kind of screen, right? He used his WeChat QR code as his phone lock screen. So he just put on his phone, scan my QR code.
Oh, that's nice.
without opening WeChat, lose yourself, look at the QR code. Because his QR code is his phone lock screen. Just put on, scan my QR code.
That's super awesome, because I think oftentimes you find situation where you have no connections, no internet connection, right? That's a pain, especially if you're like T-Mobile or Sprint or something, and then be able to generate that QR code takes internet.
Yeah. Some people does that. I found that person amazing.
This guy must have like a lot of connections. Okay. Okay. I see some compliments on the screen. Anyone has any more questions before we wrap up the session? All right. Well, I think this might be. Oh, how do you follow up if you don't have any questions to ask now? Okay. I think this is more
of course. Just follow my channel. Just use a simple question. Drop down your question on my channel. YouTube, Bilibili, and then I'll check the comments of my channel very often.
Absolutely. And then there's Bilibili, there's YouTube, there's also WeChat. So BigJoe is present on 3 different social media channels. So feel free to reach out, and also LinkedIn too, right?
I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry, it's so slow if I type in, so I just simply want to ask from here. So say if I have an interview with a company and I searched for LinkedIn, I saw 2 people within that company in maybe in the department. One maybe is BigJoe, another is Daniel, and definitely you 2 are the teammates within that team. So will it be awkward for me to reach out for the situation for me to reach out to you 2 like directly? Because you guys maybe next day you meet with each other, you say, okay, someone named like Alice reached out to me last night.
I think that's okay. So first of all, you don't necessarily 2 of them would respond, right? Or maybe 1 of them will respond. So that's okay.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah, that's entirely okay. I mean, there might be some awkwardness if we happen to be chatting and say, hey, who did you reach out? Or you mentioned someone else reaching out to you, and then this person reached out to me too. That's fine.
The most awkward situation I had was back to my MBA days. I was interviewed with a company, and then network with somebody I know who referred to a different person, and the other referred to a different person, and I speak to that person about the role, and this person told me, sorry, I cannot speak with you because I will be your interviewer tomorrow.
Oh.
That's super awkward. But other than that, totally okay.
Then it comes to another question. Say, if you want to interview with that team, right, within that company, so anybody who will not be your interviewer is okay to connect with, right? As long as that person is your interviewer.
Yeah, as long as they're willing to speak with you.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just to comment on that, like it's I think if you have the time, if you can dedicate some time aside, I think reaching out to people has no downside. As long as you try to create that awkward situation. It's always good to know who you're going to talk to before the interview, so you can avoid talking to them directly. But it's still important to try to leverage if you really care about this job, right? Try to leverage as much as you can. Reaching out, it doesn't have any direct downsides. All right. I think that might be it for the questions. And then so again, BigJoe, thank you very much for your time. And we're going to post all that information, including today's sessions, all the lecture notes. I think I also talked about the TED Talks and YouTube from 2 of the influencers on networking. And then BigJoe's information will be posted as well. We'll also record this session, and then we'll see how I can maybe find a way to effectively upload it to YouTube and share with all the attendees.
Yeah. So once again, be sure to subscribe to my channel on YouTube, BigJoe, or Weixin, and then let's get from there. Okay.
Thank you so much. And then next 2 months, we'll be having a influence session specifically. And then pay attention maybe to the WeChat channel we have on the CYPN-USA. And then also in BigJoe's WeChat group, in my WeChat group on MBA Mixers, and we'll be broadcasting those events as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good weekend. Bye.